All right, welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. So today's presentation, we're going to take a different spin, and we're not going to be talking about marketing images, but rather we're going to talk about some visual branding effects and a couple of specific tools that are available in SOLIDWORKS to help you achieve consistent branding output. So here's this idea that effective visual brand identity is achieved by the consistent use of particular visual elements to create a distinction. And those elements can be things like fonts, colors, graphic elements. And you see that a lot. If you think about like a Toys R Us sign, just the colors and the font and the way that the letters are all skewed on their sides, that even if it said something completely different, your brain would probably think, hey, that looks like Toys R Us. If you look at any of the presentations that we do here at Hawkridge, right, we're all using this same PowerPoint type template. We have our logo, our colors, our particular fonts. It just helps create continuity as a brand, especially if you have multiple people in your enterprise working on the same or different projects, right? You don't want Joe's output to be different than Bob's output because now we're looking at the difference between Joe and Bob, but not the continuity of your organization as a whole. So a couple of my favorite examples, I'll actually show them. IKEA and Lego. These are assembly type manuals. And this is a lot of what really Composer is targeting, is making documents such as these where we're limiting the use of words and we're trying to use pictures of our product to illustrate something technical in a very easy to read and easy to understand manner. And just thumbing through this, you see that we see the same type of graphic elements appearing over and over again. So if I go to a completely different manual for a completely different product, well, the only thing that's different is the product. The type of elements we're seeing are all the same. We're not seeing different fonts in different manuals. We're not seeing different types of arrows in different manuals. It's all pretty much the same, and that helps establish the continuity of a really strong brand like IKEA. Same thing for Legos, right? Here's this is actually a pretty darn old Lego set manual, and you can see that they're still using this pictorial, very easy to understand type of content. The idea is a child's supposed to use it. Well, same thing if you're doing a manufacturing instructions. You want it to be able to read across language barriers, anything like that. So if I look at like a much newer Lego manual, well, the graphics look a lot better, but the output is essentially the same. They haven't changed too much in the way that they communicate, and that helps establish that continuity with their brand. So today we're actually going to be looking at some tools in Composer that can help you maintain that same type of visual brand identity. We're talking not so much about fonts and logos and things, but more about the type of elements that you create and how they look. So if we put an arrow, we want to use the same type of arrow in every document. We use a zoomed in detail view. We want the same type of detail view in every document. Things like that. So the tools we'll be looking at are particularly the Eyedropper tool. We're talking about styles and how both of those affect your properties of the parts in Composer. And then finally, we'll be talking a little bit about workshop profiles. So let me introduce you to our task at hand. We have a simple Word document here, right? This is Microsoft Word. Notice also Microsoft Word uses styles. And I'm not worried so much about the text. I'm going to be talking about the Composer output here. So all these images in this document are images that have been output from SOLIDWORKS Composer. So I'm going to be using this document as sort of a starting point, and when we create any future documents, we're going to want to reuse the same type of graphic elements we see here, and maybe even go a step further and try and create a little bit more continuity just between this document. For example, you can see some of these effects have like a solid green arrow, whereas some effects have like a faded arrow. Very minute difference, but maybe we want to actually correct that in this document as well. So jumping into Composer. All right, here's all those views that you just saw in that same document. Here's where they all got published from. So what I want to show is the eyedropper tool. So spinning over to this very first item, or very first view, notice we have one actor that has a yellow color, and we have a mirror image of that actor, essentially the same part, that has a gray color, and that's inconsistent. We want to change that. So the simplest way to do a task like that would be to use the eyedropper tool. So I would select the item I want to change. Here's the eyedropper tool, or the copy appearance properties if you want to be technical. And now notice my mouse turns into an eyedropper, pick on the item I want to copy the appearance properties from, and notice now the actor has changed to be that color. So the eyedropper tool takes all of the appearance properties for that part and copies them over to the other. And I want to keep this change consistent in every single image. So let me talk about something else that is somewhat widely misunderstood here in Composer. So I'm going to take the file properties for this part, and I'm going to set whatever they are currently at as the neutral property. So every image going forward that calls for neutral properties will actually inherit that color. And if we see now, if we look, it's kind of hard to see, but on my screen, the intro view is still gray, but in my screen it's now yellow. It's because now this intro view is pulling the neutral properties, but hasn't been updated in that view yet. So if I want to update that, I'll just hit the redraw button, and that redraws every single view, and now the views are consistent, where I see what I see on my screen is actually what I see in the view. But what I want to talk about here is the difference between using that redraw view and saying update views of selected actors. A commonly misunderstood workflow would be, maybe you want to say, okay, let's select that actor that I just changed and select all the views and say update views of selected actors. The problem with that is that took whatever properties, including position, the item that I selected was in, and it will copy that to every view. So now notice this item no longer translates. So there's a difference here between updating views of selected actors, and that will take whatever properties are selected in the view, and they will apply that to every sequential view, versus redraw all views, which just takes care of any issues you might have where the view preview does not agree with what you actually get on screen when you activate that view. So let me back up out of that really quickly. And let's recap this idea of what we can do with the eyedropper tool. So once again, copy appearance properties tool, the eyedropper tool lives on your properties dialog. It takes only appearance properties. It's really quick and easy to use. It allows you to, I didn't show this, but it allows you to actually copy the appearance properties, but they're not going to be locked in. So you can use that as just a starting point and then modify whatever you get from there. The limitation, I think the hardest limitation that we come across is that it does not work between views or documents. So if you need to have the same type of properties between documents or between views, that's when the styles tool comes in handy. Something else that it does that's actually really useful is that it will copy appearance properties only. So if I show that really quickly, what we'll see is maybe in this view, let's say I wanted to create a couple more labels. So let's go ahead and author in a label on 2 different components. And I want these labels to pull their text from the SOLIDWORKS metadata description. So let's say, let's use the description here. And notice that the other text boxes, they are pulling their text from the actor name or the actor tooltip. So if I copied all the properties using a style from this label to this label, this label's text would change because it would start calling out the actor name. But instead, we want to copy the appearance properties only. So select them both, appearance properties only, and now the text maintained its integrity pulling from the description, but all the appearance properties now match whatever I copied them from. So I'm getting a more consistent output here. Let's go ahead and update that view. So now we want to actually copy some properties between views. So that's a good point to talk about styles. So styles is a workshop, and the way it works is, notice all of these properties here. This looks a whole lot like my properties dialog, normally on the left-hand side of the screen, but instead the workshops will be normally on the right-hand side of the screen, but it's going to mirror those same properties we see in the properties tab. The way it works is I check on any properties that I want the style to control. And if I leave something unchecked, then the style will not have any effect on that particular property. So what that means is I get this entire spectrum of flexibility versus control, because I can have a very, very specific style that controls every single property on a particular actor, or I can have a very general style that is available on different types of actors perhaps, and it also allows to maybe just capture a couple things like color and font and size, but the user is still control of all of the position information, maybe the opacity, maybe what description it's actually pulling for the text, things like that. And there's this other option where I can subscribe to a style, and a style that's subscribed to actually will prevent the user from changing any of the properties that are actually controlled by that style. Furthermore, styles, like I said, you can apply them only to actors of a certain type, and that is the family property. And also, styles can be implemented company-wide. So you can actually, let me show it. If you look in your properties for SOLIDWORKS Composer, or preferences, sorry, and underneath data paths, here's the locations where all of your different profiles, and underneath profiles you have styles. So if you go to this location, default is documents, SOLIDWORKS Composer, user, and profiles. And then you'll find any of your custom styles. Well, if we point this to a network location, now everyone on Enterprise can use the same styles. So let's create a style. The general way I like to do it is to start with an actor that looks how we want it to be, select it, and then we'll go over to our Workshops tab. Now, it's tempting to go to Styles tab, but that's not going to do what we want. We're going to go to the Workshops tab and open up the Styles Workshop. And this is where we actually make changes to the style. So I'm going to hit the New Style button. Now, just looking at the buttons here, we have Quick Style, New Style, Copy, Rename, and Delete. You can't delete the default style. So let's say New Style, and notice I have an actor already selected. So this new style is going to inherit all of the properties from this actor that I have selected. And let's call this my labels. And notice in the property manager for the workshops, now we have only one property has been checked, and that's the family. Right now it's set to generic. What does that mean? That means that this new style called labels will be available to any type of actor. Meaning no matter what I select, let's say I select a different type of actor, this is a geometry actor, I go to the Styles tab, there's my label style. If I pick on a label style is still there. Now if I change the family, let's say instead of generic, I want this to apply only to annotations, because annotations is what a label uses. So let's apply this style only to annotations. Now, going back to the Styles tab, we'll see if I select an annotation, there's my label style. If I select a geometry actor, that style is no longer available to me because this is not an annotation anymore. So let's keep it at annotations. And once again, I'll select the starting item and notice that changes. This is actively changing what I see in my style depending on what I have selected. So I'll select whatever I'm going to start with, and I'll come in here and I'll check the box for any property that I want that style to control. So I definitely want to control text, font, and size. And let's keep all this going. Now I don't necessarily want to control what property it's pulling from. I want the user to be able to have control over that. And maybe this is not important. Now the attach type, I want to capture this little arc, so let's capture all the attach properties. If the attach has a border, I'd want to capture that as well. And definitely the shape, this rectangular shape, let's capture that. And any lines, we want to capture that. I don't think I actually have a border on, but let's just put that in there as well, just in case. All right, so I'm leaving only a few deselected. This is going to be not too much of a generic style. This is going to be mostly a hard control for whatever label I use. And that's it. I can just hit X out of the workshop, and you don't have to save it. The style is automatically saved for you. So now if I want to use that style, I can do one of two things. I can either go to a new view where I want to use that style to add a label. So let's go to this view here and add a label. With that label selected, go to my Styles tab. There's my label style. And if I double click on it, that applies the style to the actor. But notice all my properties are still editable. So if I don't want this arc tooltip anymore, I can change it to the standard one again. But if I don't want the user to be able to do that, then we can use the subscription option. So if I turn on auto subscribe, and then I apply the label style, double clicking. Sorry, select the actor, auto subscribe, double click on the label. Notice now these properties have all been grayed out. So notice it even says style subscribe. So I can't make changes to any of the properties for a subscribe style. And if I want to allow changes again, I can just select the actor and hit unsubscribe. And now those properties are changeable again. All right, repetition is key. So I'm just going to make a couple more styles so you guys can really get a good handle on the workflow here. So first, let me just update this view. And let's capture a style from some other type of element. Maybe these arrows. I really like this arrow. Let's select the arrow. And we'll go to our styles workshop. We're going to make a new style. And I'm going to call this green faded arrows. Now this is not going to be a generic. Well, let's keep it as generic. Why not? But I definitely want to control the shape of the arrow. I need to be careful here. The extremity type, that might not be something particular to the style because I want the user to be able to input the arrow as normal. Head shape and head width, maybe, yes. Head length, yes. That controls this little portion. Now the width and the length of the arrow, definitely not the length. I don't want that to be controlled by the style, but maybe the width. Let's try it. And we can add any of the appearance properties here and any of the border appearances. Now, had I selected the length, you can imagine that it would be really frustrating to a user because they would draw an arrow, they'd subscribe to the style, and then the arrow would change length on them. Let's keep the opacity on, and this will be an option. All right, so that's it for this style. Close out of here, and it's automatically saved. So now if I want to use it, we'll go to another view that has a different type of arrow. Maybe come over to this view. Let's select that arrow. Go to my Styles tab. Double click on, let's not subscribe in this case. Let's double click on the faded arrow, and it changes as I'd expect. And we'll update that view. Now I want to show one other tool that you could use to create styles. So the workflow I've been using so far, right, is I select an actor, I go to my styles workshop, and I hit new style, and I turn on the items that I want to be controlled. There is also the ability to use a quick style. And notice the quick style is also available on the styles tab. So if I select an actor, choose quick style, and let's call this my digger style. Notice that the quick style automatically checks every single property. So quick style is very, very, very rigorous, and it's not going to be flexible at all. And oftentimes, a few of these properties you really don't want to capture. For example, let's say this style I'm happy with for now. And let's try and reuse this digger style. So let's flip over to another view where we see a digger that looks different. We want these to be consistent now, so we want to use that red type of output. Select this digger. Let's use the digger style by double-clicking. And notice even my image changed. So what happened there? Let's go back to this view. And if we go to our styles workshop and we look at the digger style, we can see that all the properties have been selected. And particularly there's one in here that actually controls what we see in the digger, and that's this texture one. So notice the matte path. So every single actor now that I apply this style to is now going to pull this image up. So I definitely don't want that. Let's see, is there anything else I definitely don't want in here? I think most of these might be okay. But as long as I don't subscribe, remember that I can make the changes on an as-needed basis. Remember, I just made one change to this style now. I don't need to save it. I can just X out of here, and it does, in fact, update the style for me. So we can now go to another view, and let's try that same thing again. We'll select the digger, go to styles, and let's activate the digger style. Now we see the image that we're looking for, but the output type is actually consistent. And I think I just saw one more property that I'm not going to want the style to control, and that's the position. So let's go back to my styles workshop under the digger style. Notice I'm selecting an actor just to get the proper appearance properties to show up. If I have nothing selected, notice there's lots of these that are just not applicable. So select one of the digger items, and here we go, placement. So I don't necessarily want the style to control the location of that item. The width and the height, that might be okay. That just gives me consistent size. But maybe I don't even want that. So that style, remember, I don't have to save it. Just get out of there. Let's resize this guy. Activate this one. Go to styles, double click, and that applies the digger style to me. Notice now there's another property that I missed, the attach point for the arc tooltip. But that's okay, I'll just fix it for now. All right, so we're seeing all over the place that the quick style really isn't a great workflow, because usually it captures too much, and then you end up with this frustration of applying a style and having to go back and remove items from it. So I definitely recommend the workflow of going to your Workshops tab, Styles, select the actor you want to start with, and then just say New Style. And then the new style is actually you're going to have to manually choose which items you want to make the change to, using which items you want the style to apply to. A good starting point would be whatever properties you find that you are actually changing when you created the actor from scratch. All right, so if I created a label from scratch and all I changed was the font and the color, that might be the only two items that I would actually want to control with a new style for that type of actor. All right, so right now we have a digger style, we have a label style. Let me do one more really quickly just to reinforce that workflow. Come in here, I really like these, the way these lines look. let's make a new style, and let's call this lines red dashed. And this will just be a generic style so that I can apply it to almost anything. And what do we want here? I really just want maybe some color information. That's not even the right one. Definitely the way the line looks. And I think that actually might be it. I really don't need to fill, I don't think. I don't see any blue on the screen. So let's see how that one works. So there's my red lines dash style. Let's close out of that workshop. And we'll go to another line somewhere. And let's try applying that style. So maybe on these three. Let's go to styles. There's our styles line red dashed. Double click and it applies that style. So it's working. So that's exactly what I wanted. Let's move forward, do it in the last few here. Apply it. Grab these two. Too much. So select one, select the other. Line's red. And we will update that view. All right. Maybe just for consistency, let's make these arrows, use that green arrow style that I created, and update the view one more time. And now we're off and running. So a couple tips about styles, just to recap. You really only want to control the properties that are necessary. And that's why I like the workflow of creating a new style first, and then only selecting the properties that you generally end up changing every time you create that particular type of actor. Now that way you're not going to make the style too restrictive, and we saw that that is really the main problem with the quick style. It's usually a bit too restrictive, but it could make a good starting point, especially if you're really not sure what properties you might want to select. It's a recommendation that you go ahead and actually create styles, but you should create one for different types of commonly used actors. I think a really good starting point would be to create a style for arrows, a style for polylines and paths, a style for labels, right? That's what I just did, and a style for the digger. In fact, those are the four that I've shown so far. You might also want to create a style for detail views if you use them a lot, and for your bill of materials. That way you'll get consistent look and feel of your bill of materials. All right, so now I'm ready to go and publish out those updated images back to that original Word document that we saw in the beginning. So to do that, I'm going to use a workshop, and that's a good time to talk about workshop profiles. So workshop profiles is kind of like a style, but just for the selections that you make in a workshop. And really one of the only workshops that workshop styles don't apply to is the styles workshop. Basically what it does is it makes it just so you avoid any repeated clicks in those commonly used workshops. And of course, by having a user do less clicks, the user is less likely to have an error or make a mistake, right? We're all human. Just like styles, they can be implemented company-wide. I already showed that location. You go to your preferences for Composer under data paths, and you can find out where all these documents live. And the best thing about a workshop profile is that it's really, really super simple to set up. There's no reason that you should be clicking through a workshop every single time you do something, a general task. So let's go ahead and create one. So I'm ready to publish out all these images that I've updated into that document. So I'm going to use my high resolution images workshop. And notice again at the top we have our profiles. So there is no quick profile tool. You just say new profile. And I'm going to call this my publish to Word profile. And just like styles, any changes that a user makes to any of these options is now going to be saved back to that workshop profile. And I'll show you in a little bit how we can lock that down. But first, we want to actually make the edit. So I'm going to keep this selected. And let's say I want to run anti-aliasing. I'm going to double check my output size. And let's ramp the quality up. And I do, in fact, want to output all the views. I'm going to go in multiple and then make sure we're outputting all the views. And that's it. All right, this is the same workflow that I would go through in order to publish the views, but because I created that new style, all this information has now been saved to that, sorry, I said style. All that information has been saved to that workshop profile. So let's go ahead and publish out those views. Overwrite my existing one so that it'll update my Word document. And that's it. And I'll double check that all of the output did what I wanted it to. So let's open up that Word document one more time. So get out of here. And that guy is, here's the manual. And we've made those changes. Now we have the yellow output that we're looking for, and any other changes that I made, so on and so forth. So we've already updated this document. Now I mentioned that there is a way to make sure that a user does not make a change to your styles or your workshop profiles. The way you do that is you find the file that is saved whenever you create both a style or a workshop profile, and you're going to open up that XML file in Notepad, and you look for this specific property, profile.modifiable value equals 1. And 1 is yes, 0 is no. So is it modifiable? Yes. Is it modifiable? No. So tips about workshop profiles, right? I already said, create a workshop profile for any of these common tasks, such as the BOM workshop is a great place to have profiles. High resolution image workshop, great place to have profiles. But keep in mind, any changes that the user makes in that workshop tab, they automatically get saved back to that profile. So what we actually want to do is lock that profile down. And a locked profile looks like this. It has a little lock next to it. So in order to get that to happen, what we want to do is we want to go and find the profile, the workshop profile file. And once again, under preferences, data paths, we can see that the default location, and that's where mine are, for workshop profiles, they are all in the users, hunter, documents, SOLIDWORKS Composer. All right, so let's go to that location. Way too much stuff open. So let's go to C. Actually, I can just fast forward to my documents, SOLIDWORKS Composer, user, profiles, and here they are. As I said, they were an XML file. They just have a really weird extension, SMG style set, SMG high resolution set. And notice the name mirrors whatever that style is called. So if I want to lock down this published to Word workshop profile, I just need to open it in Notepad. By default, I don't think Windows will recognize to open it. You'll just have to say select from programs and open up in Notepad. And you can search in here, or if you have a quick eye, sometimes you can just see the profile that we're looking for. Profile modifiable value 1, that's what we're looking for. So let's take that 1, make it a 0, save, close this down. Let's go back into Composer. And I'm going to actually create a new document now just to show how easily we can now reuse all that style information. So let's open up a document, and this is going to be just a SOLIDWORKS assembly that I'm going to open up. So we're working on a new document now. And let's filter out our SOLIDWORKS assemblies. So this is the original SOLIDWORKS file. And let's grab the engine here that I want to use. Let's use my SOLIDWORKS import profile and open it up. And now in the background, Composer's launching SOLIDWORKS, turning all that geometry into a lightweight version that Composer can read in. And it's going to open it up in Composer for me and maintain all of the proper metadata and the like. So if you work in, if you don't actually have access to SOLIDWORKS, that's totally okay. You can still get information from the SOLIDWORKS geometry into Composer. So if I want to create a couple of views here, let me just create a new view. Maybe we want an exploded view, so move this guy over and let's move a couple of these guys out of the way just to create a quick image. All right, maybe I want to take these two, miss them. Let's copy their location from these ones. Move this guy out. Move this guy out. Let's capture that view. Make a new view, and in this one I'm going to add some annotations. So let's go ahead and add a label. And I want that label to be, I want it to use my style that I created, this label style. And let's add a, maybe a line. So let's click on this guy and let's add a associative path from neutral. And there's this black dashed line. Let's change that to the red one by subscribing to that or applying that style that I had made. The line's red dashed. Double click. Oop. Line's red. All right, that style's not working. Let's look at it. So once more, let's open up our styles workshop. Line's red dashed. It's a generic style. And if I select one of these guys, we see that there's actually nothing selected there. So I made a whoopsie when I created that style. That's okay. What I would want to do is open up the original document and then edit the style really quickly and come back here. But, let's just move forward for the sake of time. And we'll capture this view. And let's put everything back. So let's add another view now where maybe these guys go away. And this guy is going to go back to its neutral position. And we want to now bring our attention to a different actor. So let's put in another label. And we want that label to be using our label style. And I will mention you can apply any of these as the default. So if I right click on one of them, I can say select set as default. And then if I add a new label in, I'm just one less click. All right, it's already captured that style right from the get-go. And maybe let's put an arrow in as well. And let's have that arrow maybe go from there out, and it looks like it's going the wrong way, so we'll change its start point, and we want to use the green faded style, and there we go. Let's capture that view, and we can keep moving on forward, creating more and more output using these styles that I've created. And notice how easy that was. So once I'm ready to publish all that out to the high resolution image, we'll come over here and grab my published to Word profile. Notice now it has a lock on it. Remember, that's what I did when I captured the modifiable value in the XML file. All right, well, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll be sticking around for a little while if you have any questions. Just recapping, we're talking just about styles in order to create consistent visual output using SOLIDWORKS Composer. Styles, the copy appearances, eyedropper tool, and making your own workshop profiles. And I will mention one more time, there's a different spin on the better branding presentation done by our product manager, Scott Woods. That is up on our website. And he'll be talking about marketing images. So if you're creating marketing images, that's a good place to look. And if you're going to be using styles in order to control your output, you're in the right place right now. So thank you for attending.